How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. This one is kind of a surprise and a very cool find. You would have known about it if you watched the Ishake podcast, so go ahead and check that out as well for sneak peeks on future videos, because the podcast has known about this video for about 2 weeks now. So, long story short, me and my girlfriend Meriel were on a long road trip, and we were in Kanab, Utah at this point, and we wanted to explore our campsite a little bit because we saw some wetlands while driving in. So we walk down this road and then we find some rain pools down at the bottom. And I check all those rain pools, me being a fish guy, her being an adventurer. And I didn't really see anything alive in these pools, maybe some tiny little water insects. But we heard running water and then walked a little bit longer. And then sure enough, over this cliffside, we found this little sort of like estuary area, or this little tiny pond, and it was absolutely beautiful, and we wanted to go swimming in it. So we went down this cliffside, jumped over a rugged fence. It was very beat up, so I don't think this was private property, and it was also out in the middle of nowhere. So we went down and we got closer to the water, and I saw this long thing that kind of looked like a stick, but the more and more that I looked at it, I came to a pretty interesting realization. I kind of just screamed out, like, those are axolotls. And I was so convinced that they were axolotls. I actually kept two back in the day when I had all my aquariums. I had two leucistic axolotls, and they were one of my favorite creatures that I've ever kept. It was actually Meriel that looked up that these guys are actually tiger salamanders, which makes a lot of sense because I know that one of the only places that you can find axolotls, again, don't fact check me on this, it's just the only place that I've heard is Mexico, to where you can actually find axolotls in the wild. But first I just want to talk about the environment that they were in and how this was just a beautiful spot that even I believe that axolotls might be able to live in. The water was a little murky, but it was very well oxygenated. So talked about a little bit about that earlier, but stagnant water is one of the main reasons why these sort of rain pools don't work for such big animals. That's why I was very surprised to find these guys all in here. So we went down there once during the day and once at night, just because I thought these were axolotls and that they might be nocturnal and more active, which we did find more at night, so they did come out. But just the water that was dripping down that cliffside was breaking that the surface of the water, and just making it very oxygenated. It kind of works like a trickle tower system. I actually built one of those for a 55-gallon fish tank. Very, very fun and very good for the fish. Just oxygenating water is just a very easy way to make your fish happy. If you realize that your fish tank water is stagnant, go ahead and just toss an air stone in there, or get a filter that breaks that surface area. It's going to do wonders for your fish. So give that a thought. A little bit about tiger salamanders, though. Their scientific name is Abystoma tigrinum. And they're not really endangered at all, so don't worry about that. I know it's kind of a shocker to talk about an animal that's not endangered these days, but they're mainly found on the Atlantic coast, to the east side of the states, and a lot of those surrounding states too, mainly, but pretty much any North American wetlands you can find tiger salamanders. They're very, very common, but I just feel like maybe in their larval state, which is what you're seeing now, is a little bit more rare, and obviously it looks like axolotls, and axolotls have been booming for the past couple of years. So, like many other salamanders, they can regenerate their limbs. If you ever, want to see it happen, then, they kind of give off, like, take me by my strong hand sort of vibes, and their limb that grows back will be a different pigment from the rest of their body. They can live up to about 15 years in the wild and up to 26 years in captivity. At least that was the oldest recorded specimen. And There are a lot of types of species of tiger salamander, but the defining characteristic of the genus is that they can make and live in underground burrows. And these burrows can be pretty deep, actually, up to about 2 feet or a little over half a meter. And this is to escape the really, really hot temps that these guys will live in, such as, Utah being a pretty hot place and can be very dry and arid. And we'll talk about another adaptation that they have for that later on. They need to excrete mucus out of their skin to keep the skin moist. It's pretty common among salamanders and just mainly amphibians as well. They can also defend themselves with a harmful toxin to its predators from its anal gland, so kind of like a skunk. And it's not fatal or anything like that, but it's more of a stinging toxin and will definitely scare off any predators that they want to get away for the moment. Now what you're seeing is actually the larval state, like I said earlier, of tiger salamanders. So they are aquatic based and they have those external gills, exactly like axolotls. I'm just trying to defend myself for swearing that they were axolotls for a long time. But they will undergo a metamorphosis and they'll lose those external gills and actually gain lungs so that they can live on land. Now I wasn't able to find any actual tiger salamanders because, like I said earlier, they can create those burrows and are very, very hard to find. But I got a bunch of them in their larval state, and a lot of people know what axolotls look like nowadays. So they can also go through a process called neoteny, which is also called juvenilization, to where an animal can have delaying or slowing development of the physical attributes of the animal. So they can stay in these little rain pools for as long as they want. They can even live their entire lives in this larval state. And there are a lot of advantages to that, such as this rain pool being a very good hotspot for all of the things that they eat, such as insects, worms, and sometimes even small frogs. And also, they have adapted to where they can lose those external gills and they actually gain lungs, and they can basically leave whenever they want, and just to whenever that outside environment is suitable for them. So, very, very cool adaptation, very cool animal. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry it's a little bit of a shorter one, but it was definitely a cool find in Kanab, Utah. And stay tuned next week for some dive videos and more Ishake adventures. Thanks for watching.